Peggy.
And I'm Tony, and we are from Stressless Camping, and we got to visit a Lippert chassis factory in Indiana.
Right.
It was quite the experience, and so we're going to take you with us here on YouTube and see what you think. So here it is. This is basically the factory that we saw. It makes chassis for travel trailers and fifth wheels. What an operation. I was truly impressed. I've seen a lot of manufacturing done because my dad basically was an engineer who developed things. And this was just an incredible ballet of coordinated people who truly worked together. Look at this.
For example, these two that you're seeing here, speaking of a ballet, the one on the right was working over on the right. He was working on his side, and the other guy walked up and he put a piece in and he started to kind of tack it in place. And the one on the right had his back to the other side, and he just finished what he did. He did a weld, turned around, helped the guy put his weld in place, and turned back around. Like he knew exactly when that guy was going to need the help.
It was, that's the kind of stuff we saw. You might see down the sides of the line all of the different pieces. That whole line is cleared for each individual chassis that they build.
So they run a bunch of the same thing.
Right.
They run a series of them, 20 or whatever, and then they take everything out, and all those lined up pieces and those carts of parts, I didn't do that on purpose, are brought in for the next
for the next
model.
chassis. And that's why now this is fascinating. The chassis, when you put a lot of weight on it, it flexes a little bit. And these guys in the back with those big torches actually heat up the chassis such that it flexes a certain way to accommodate the weight that's being put on it. So this building is not just structural and following procedures. It's truly an art form. Check out these measuring tapes. Each of those tapes is labeled for a specific chassis, and we'll drop in a picture here of how the tapes are like marked for different parts. Okay, so now we are in the powder coating department.
Look at how many people are there working. So basically, in 7 minutes, that cabinet, that room is closed for 7 minutes, and those people each have their station, and they need to do 100% coverage on their section of the chassis that they're working on.
Yeah, it starts here. I think I put the videos in a reverse order, but they actually blast the chassis with a material that kind of roughs it up. So this room that you're looking at now is where that's done. And so we're going to go inside. That's Patrick, by the way. And what an impressive guy. He not only works here on weekends, he basically gets on the line and welds too, so he knows basically.
So he doesn't forget what it's like.
Right. So this is a chassis right after it's been blasted, kind of sandblasted, so that the metal is rough, such that it is better able to accept the powder coating. And if there's any imperfections or rust or anything like that on the metal is prepared for the next step, which is powder coating. And that's
which you already saw.
Yeah. But here the chassis are dragged in.
You've got two chassis, fifth wheel chassis there stacked up.
Yeah, and it's getting dragged into the powder coating room.
And I think we forgot to mention, but all this steel comes from, almost all from the United States, but all from North America.
Yeah, so they use American-made steel. They're also, for where these pieces go, they have these precise jigs. You see the camaraderie in just this, where these guys and gals are there's also these huge vacuum tubes or vacuum systems to
So
clear
after
the air.
after they powder coat it, then they run it through a thing where they clean off any spare, and then they run it through this heater, this giant oven.
Yeah, it's a giant oven.
And these are coming out of the oven, so they've been heat treated so that powder coat doesn't fall off. And now they'll do a last inspection and make sure that they didn't miss anything.
Yeah, and so you see the chassis smoking here because it literally melts this powder coating material right to the steel. It's the precision and the artistry at this factory was one of the most impressive factories I've seen. The way all the team members work together, the way Patrick, the head of the plant, works with the team, the number of checks and balances, and all of that. I have to admit I was impressed. One of the things I asked, why is there not more robotic assembly or automated assembly? And the answer was they may only build 2, 3, 5, 10 of a chassis and then clear the line and bring a whole new line in. That's just how the RV industry works.
I'd imagine having to retool all that instead of just bringing in the new parts. This is a picture of the kind of wagons that that tow the wheels that tow the chassis around.
Yeah. So people do speak badly of the RV industry. Another thing I found out is the chassis might be engineered by whoever's building the RV. So, Acme trailers may say, this is how we want our chassis to be. And they may also say, hey, Lippert, engineer a chassis for this trailer, or it may be any combination thereof. Now, of course, Lippert, being the chassis company in this case, has an understanding of how structurally this should work.
Right.
But Patrick did say sometimes they'll get designs and they say, are you sure you want to do this? And they'll go back and make sure that everything is the way it really should be to be roadworthy and solid, because you can't build a good RV on a lousy foundation. And they just really do a terrific job at this plant. They feed a lot of manufacturers, including some really high-end fifth wheels and some, travel trailers that you and I might buy. Well, I'm assuming you're not buying high-end travel trailers. I should make that assumption.
Shouldn't do that.
But overall, it was a terrific tour. Again, just the camaraderie there and the way everybody works together. Lippert has really established a good relationship among their team members, and I have to say I'm pretty impressed. So we'd like to thank Lippert for opening the doors and letting us see how the chassis are made. We also, of course, would like to invite you. Every week we have a new podcast at stresslesscamping.com all about things in the RV industry and ways to maximize your RV experience and turn it into a stressless camping one. So you can join us there. And in the meanwhile, thank you for joining us here, and happy camping.